Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and we are right about to close in the night of Mercury before we enter the morning of Apollo. It is Mars hour, and Mars is in the regal degree 5 of Leo, trining the Sun, still trining the Sun, and I got something to say about the Sedna story, because Sedna is in Gemini, and there's a lot of talk about colonialism in the air, and I think it is a good conversation. We are at the time, we are at the time where, 70, 76, 70, 79, we are at the time of Planet George symbolizing the American Revolution. But we're also at a time where what was supposed to be the revival of Africa became a giant MK Ultra naval institution with the Black Rock and Bank of America, and the currency changed. So what's behind the WEF? But I said what I said. Sedna will be Sedna. She's trining Pluto. She ain't got time for us if we're not listening. She was the girl that drowned when nobody could accommodate for the free woman and for the free child in the Inuit tribe. And she's Inuit. And this is what I got to say. Okay? Sedna is about 12 millennia cycle. She ain't got time for us because she thinking 12 millennia. She moves very slow so we can catch up. But we gotta have, she ain't got time for disrespect, okay? She ain't got time for disrespect for the solitary woman, the solitary child, or the free woman, or the free person, whether within or outside relationships. She ain't got time for that. She will knock the earth down. She will knock humanity down if needed be. I mean, we talk about 5,000 year cycles of humanity. That's 2.5 of those within Sedna cycle. So she ain't got time for us, very simply put. And when it comes to colonialism, everybody has a cry, okay? So Jews have a cry to like anti-Semitism, we've been persecuted for the entire history, Palestinians and indigenous tribes and whatnot. That can be so easily capitalized on. I mean, we saw that with the watermelons. We saw that with the North Africans already talking about Congo. And it's so easy to give away an island and think that we're doing justice to indigenous people, as I also saw happen recently. They got mainly wetland, which is not bad. We need water, but it's also important to understand, which Sedna terms, going all the way back to the Inuit, which is the origin of society as we know it. If we don't accommodate for the solitary person, if we sacrifice the solitary person, if we don't accommodate for children to have a childhood, if we don't accommodate this entire society for the free woman, okay, which is a pillar of society, because the free woman, both within and outside relationship, is a giant part of our fertility, as well as the free man. She holds the water, okay? Very simply put. And if we let that drown, I don't think we're going to let that drown, but the fact is that Sedna ain't got time for us when we ain't got time for that. We can't be crying colonialism. And I've been listening to like even music and culture talking about, before, I'm sorry, but people, I'm not gonna call it out. Like Gigi Young did fantastic breakdown of cult symbolism in our, how she said, in plain sight, and her series In Plain Sight is worth watching. I'm not gonna make that breakdown. I'm not gonna call anybody out. I want everybody to be making good money and making good music. But the thing is, you see a person wearing something that looks like the MK Ultra electrodes to the brain, singing about they're white, they're pale, wearing the issue, okay, because probably they don't mean Hermes, the Eshu symbolism, which is called symbolism, which is used in the Masons, as well in Africa, by in a malefic way, and talking about they got clones, they got this. What I said, what I said, you can grow a canine if you know the breed, and you can grow them well, or you can torture a human being and they grow into a monster, cloned or not, reptile or not. You can grow a lion and it's friendly to you and it remembers you because you treated it well. Okay, or you can grow your own child and it becomes a child of rage because it's been mistreated. So just something we want to keep in mind. It's one giant form of isolation for people that grow into torture camps, to be calling them reptilians. Like I said, the fuck do we know what's in our DNA? That's the first thing. And secondly, like that's just another form of isolation, and like they've been done with that. Okay, they've been through that. They've been born, raised, grown into that with nobody coming to save them. It's we the people. Now, of course, you gotta fend for your life, whatever means necessary. But other than that, it's not about dehumanizing. If we want to bring humanity to existence, Sedna ain't got no time for dehumanizing people. Okay? That's important. You gotta fend for yourself, yes, but she ain't got time for monster talk and reptilian talk and clone talk. I mean, the fuck do we care? The fuck do we know what's in our DNA, and the fuck do we care? Like, if the point was the upbringing and the torture and the inhumane treat. Now, of course, if you're fighting for your life, I'm not talking about people like Trudy Verstegen, who's just fighting for a law that's, I'm not going to judge her phrasing. That's not, but definitely we can't be saying, oh, before their ships, there was gold, there was this, there was cannibalism, there was a mistreat of the girls, there was a rape for sex, there was gang rapes, there was human trafficking, there was excluding people from food, there was confinement within traditional gender roles. There were many things before colonialism came, and any indigenous person will tell you that. With Sedna, we ain't got time for this wishy-washy stories about colonialism, about invasion. Sedna Plutotrine is kind of like, they offed Gaza. There was a toxic fungi in the soil, okay? They were not even growing biodiverse agriculture. And you can't judge them for that, because these new teachings came with Uranus and they were in like 75 years of open prison. But before that, there were girls murdered because they didn't want to be raped for the rest of their lives, buried in the sands, so much so that the place became a desert. It wasn't, Palestine was not a desert. Eretz Zavat Chalav V'Dvash, okay, the country that is rich with milk and honey, okay? Honey is bees. Milk comes from cattle, so cows and sheep and stuff, and camels as well. Camel is not a desert animal. Let me break it down for you. I live in the desert, and you see the sugar canes, they were covering the top of the camel. If I live in the one of the highest mountains, or in the Negev area, and I see eucalyptus trees, which you plant in to dry the swamps, and sugarcane remnants. Then I hear that the stories of the bus driver, the old bus driver, that tells me that his grandfather, told him that you couldn't see the back of the camel with the sugar canes covering the back of the camel. So camel was not a desert animal with the vegetation. So we can't be holding on to these very comfortable stories, and they're not false. There was colonialism, there was pandemic, there was what WEF is doing now to the world, there was, okay? But to antidote that, we need to accommodate for Sedna. We can't be murdering girls, burying them in the mountains, and not expect to be feminine, to be vegetation loss, to have wars and 2 generations of men dead before women can vote. Okay, is it like that's just history, and it goes all the way back to the Inuit. Okay, now the Inuit, when we talk about the people that were growing in freezing cold situations, building one igloo for everyone and having like incest, of course that affected their survival. Every breed in species, every species grows through incest in the beginning because of sexual polarity, and then becomes biodiverse. So you don't survive on incest. But you can definitely, like, we're not in that situation today. And so Inuit, they deal with that. They talk about that. They say we have highest rates of suicide. Yes, it's colonialism. Yes, it's this, but it's incest. It's alcoholism. It's those things that we face as society that we need to be facing. And of course, the structures to the housing, when you have a house in the north, especially in cold places where entire village lives in a house, okay, that's a rape. That's an incest rape called factory, and that housing situation needs to be improved. But it's also about us as humanity. How do we help the Inuit? How do we help the Inuit to build housing that is compatible even with the snow? How do we help the Inuit come out of those things that they want to come out of? Okay, and that's for entire humanity. So yes, those facets are true. At the same time, we can't be crying colonialism when there is toxins in the soil that we won't be able to grow crops, and entire society will be dying from these toxins. Sedna ain't got time for us. Okay, that supposed betrayal of the government that gets whoever survives to get the fuck out of the region. If that toxin would, like, if that fungi would continue to grow, everybody would become zombified. That's what fungi do to people. Okay, they harm the nervous system. And the MK Ultra is zombifying people. But before that, Palestinians were treating the crazy people, okay, which usually is about to trauma, by locking them up and sometimes putting chains around them like animals. Okay, before you cannot, you think about the rituals of human sacrifice done by the incest cults, which is now Masons, but also royal families and stuff like that. Before that, it was done by indigenous tribes. And this is not in any way idealizing colonialism, but it's also understanding that, hey, we did not have Nelson Mandela until colonialism. Nelson Mandela stood against the king. He was royal bloodline, but he was not to be king. And he spoke, like his father, he spoke against the king, and he stood up to the king, and he married a woman from another tribe, which was not the custom. Okay, I know that the war intermarriages in indigenous tribes in the U.S. Or in America, and very likely in Africa as well, but that it was considered still a controversial thing to do. So tackling, the lack of biodiversity in royal lineages in Africa, which could be death to Africa. Okay, that's the incest. Like, that's what you hate about the whites. Okay, slavery, like all of that, and taking from the colonizers what they brought in, okay, the information that they brought in, and as well as changing from the core the actual society. The fact that Africa let Mandela be 28 years in prison, and it was Africa that led that. Africa let Mandela be 28 years in prison, a Saturn cycle, an entire Saturn cycle. It takes 28 years to to go around the zodiac. That is a telltale to something that's now happening to Africa, because Procyon is about denuclearification. And when we have defluoridization of the water, Kenya, but not only, joining NAVO for building A-bombs and MK Ultraing the ladies and the people and indigenous African community. It doesn't matter, black, white, or also whites in Africa. I saw, what sparked my mind again? I saw the Moroccan flag, and it has like the, you could consider it the upright Venus, but you could also consider that Satan. I need to do Morocco's chart, but there's something really like Satan's church or Satan's mosque, like that is a symbol. And I was watching a beer. There's a woman that does Arabic cooking. She makes all types of things and then she feeds children. A beer's kitchen. And then she was sitting, I think, with her husband, who was, I don't know which one of them is Moroccan, and there was the flag of Morocco, and I was like, is that the flag of Morocco? What the fuck was I seeing? And I'll be the person who been given a positive example of how a royal family can withstand the Arab Spring, which is a Moroccan royal family. They built a solar farm in Morocco. They not acquiesced, but actually understood that they need to change things in favor of the people of Morocco, and they withstood the Arab Spring. Okay, so I guess they have to be Masons and Rosicrucians in order to remain as a royal family. The one man that tried to antidote that was actually in Libya, and that was Muammar Gaddafi, and he was building a state bank and living in a tent with his family, saying, until every citizen in my country is not housed, I'm not I'm not getting out of that tent. But I don't know how the Viagra rapes got to that, because the Viagra rapes were in favor of his regime, and that was yes, highly malefic. So I don't say I know everything, but the fact is that, of course, they did him Hitler. I said what I said. But then if he was racist like Hitler, or if he was rapey like Hitler, then that's karma as well. But you have to understand how it works with the currency. So that was in Libya, and there is an Al Ghol shrine in Libya. I said what I said, Muammar Gaddafi, but without the Viagra rapes. And I believe that he knew, or he had the intuition, that to work with Al Ghol, you would need to provide, for the wealth of the country. Another person that would surprise a lot of people here is Ben Gurion, who lived in a tiny, not tiny, but it's kind of like a humble, not even cement or wood-based housing in the Negev. And he was thinking about populating the Negev and growing, because he saw a desert. Okay, so putting the fact that, let's say, he put, Moroccan and other people in the Negev area, he lived there himself, and he believed that those people come from the desert, so they would know how to work desert land and make it livable. But that was not how he was perceived, of course. I think Golda Meir was way more racist than Ben Gurion. Okay, she was not as malefic as they make her, but I think that he was way less racist than what they made him to be. And a funny thing, I see there's a Ben Gurion University, and then there's the Ben Gurion Airport. So these are the two Ben Gurions that have contributed into my night house. And we have a roundabout where there's a statue of Ben Gurion doing the upside down, standing on his forehead. He was famous for that. It's good for the blood flow. But you think about tackling your problems, it is going upside down for what people think. And that was a person, he made mistakes. Of course, he made mistakes. But that was a person that was living himself in the area where he wanted to populate, and he was living in a very humble settings. Mind you, the Negev is a desert. It gets hot, just like Libya. Okay, it's not a comfortable setting. And Mason, not Mason, that was also a person there that did have a vision, that did make mistakes with his vision, and everybody has things to correct. They didn't have YouTube where you can see where you can Google, oh, where do they do defluoridization of the water? Oh, in Kenya. Yeah, they're building an A-bomb. Yeah, they're with Naval. Yeah, I see that an MK Ultra thing is like the same science that Beyonce does. Suddenly some girl in Africa does, and I know that this is torture. And then there's the testimony. Like, we didn't have that. And you had rites and rituals where you have to comprise for your own truth, and you could channel, and you didn't know if you channeled correctly, and that's what you had. So historically, yeah, I think we see that. And again, we have to accommodate for the solitary person. We have to accommodate for the free children. We have to accommodate for the free woman, the free child. We have to have the accommodation with the housing, with the economy. That's the only timestamp of wealth. Okay. For Muammar Gaddafi, I don't know if there was an issue with will and consent. Nobody knew the fuck about will and consent. Talk about a country where people are wed at like 12. There was a Malawi, I think she was prime minister, who she abolished child marriages and canceled, I don't remember how many thousands of marriages, sent the girls back to school. So that's recent. And you know, literally everyone we know, white or black, grew up in an incest cult. And so we cannot talk about colonialism without talking about the bases. And that's been done before there was an invasion. And this is, I've been watching Astro Victor about the upcoming Venus conjunction of Pluto, the beginning of a cycle of a year and so. And that's going to be a beginning of a cycle where we're going to have conjunction of Ceres and abundantia, not abundantia, abandon. I don't remember. It's about abandonment, and Venus is ruling for Uranus, better per se. So that's both a closure of a cycle, but also a beginning of a cycle. And there's the risk of countries, I think also Israel, to be losing, let's say, funding, support, and when it comes to the Sedna story, to the Sedna part, of course, if Israel blocks remote viewing attempts to bring back the kidnapped people and uses remote viewing to target individuals in the Nevo and Itamar Island, whatever, I think Nevo here is more significant on that level, then, but also Itamar and the rest of the folks, that really is something that, and Nederland has a moon on Beta per se, okay? So this can get Israel to be abandoned in terms of budget, which is, on the one hand, maybe awfully scary. On the other hand, on Sedna level, if you think about the toxin in the soil in Gaza, people had to flee there. But you also think about the children in the caves under the pyramid synagogues and in hospitals, okay? Naval soldiers, they're gonna see sights. And it's everyday common. Okay, it's not the lodges only. Okay, it's mainly not the lodges, but the army is a recruitment to the lodge more so than it is the lodge. And that's why I say all army is mandatory service and they're targeted. But you're gonna see sites, and as an Israeli, I can say that I don't even know. Okay, what I know that it has to do with our oil and gas resources. And I know that that's beta per se associated, and with the solar gold. It also has to do with any gold reserves that we have on the land. So, soul in the 8th house is not just the leaders being secretly funded, but it's secret gold, okay? Not saying the gold rush or anything like that, but if you do the gold rush, you better dig in the caves and you're gonna find children. You gotta get the gold, right? To get the gold, you gotta get the children out of the caves, okay? You gotta get the human trafficking out of the caves, then you gotta get the gold because the gold is with them. That's what's up. This is beta per se, okay? That's how you get the wealth, is you get the people that are trafficked and are ritually sacrificed out of the bloody mess. Then you get the gold because they're sacrificed to get the gold. So they keep the gold with them as an offering to the snake goddess on the ground. Hypothesis. Anybody want a gold rush in Israel? Come on, get the children out of the cave, get the women out of there. Don't think you can keep the gold by trafficking. Soul in the 8th house. Sun, gold, 8th house, secret, Taurus, land. Beta per se shrines. We have that underground. Uranus is trining Pluto. Venus, Pluto. I said what I said. Abundance. We have abandoned certain women. I think here is mainly women, but also children because it trines Sedna. Exposure. Okay, astrology, the role of astrology. Secret astrologers in Israel. I'm not a secret astrologer. Like, I'm kind of a secret because nobody sees me. Hey, Elon. The eggplant. Anyway, plantations. So, yeah. And so, but that Venus is ruling over that sun. So we're going to have a disclosure, exposure of why it's all happening. The shrines are underground. There's a shrine underground for this beta per se thing in the land of Palestine. And there's a shit ton of oil there as well. That's why they place the shrines there. And the way they work out gold is upside down because they are inverted. This is inverted wealth, and this is why the place became a freaking desert. And they sacrifice people there. So if those people are abandoned, then Israel will lose its support, and other people would take over. But the thing is, Ceres conjuncting Pluto. And you think about Ceres coming to meet Pluto as kind of like the mother of Persephone, going to the underworld, coming to Hades and like, come here, we need to talk. That shit is sextiling Neptune at the end of Pisces. For Netherlands, it means the food. Something to do with housing, people, and sexpionage. Now, Netherlands has it in the 11th house. Uranus is going over the 11th house of Netherlands, and everywhere we hear about the Dutchies, we heard about the Dutchies during COVID demonstrate, and then we hear about, the Dutchies as clones. Not all of them are clones, but like everybody hears about the clones right now, and it's in the Netherlands in general, because that's the ascendant ruled by this Cancer ascendant, 19 degrees Cancer ascendant, and of course Peter going viral because that was his ascendant. I think he had 17 degrees ascendant or 19 ascendant, I don't know. And Hirte going viral because he had Rahu, there. So But Geert being silent, I need to check up what's with Geert, because that guy never silent for no reason. Yeah, Chiron is stationing direct on his Jupiter. So, yeah. The silent He, I think, will come out of the underworld. He's planning something for sure. He's up to something for sure, but I don't know what. Anyway, when I think about kind of what's going to be, we need to remember that Pluto also transits in Gemini, and that is the children. I said what I said. Pluto entered the 5th house of Israel. The Yemenite children scandal was nothing. But I wonder what Pisces is, because Pisces would be the 6th house for Israel, and they have Jupiter in the 4th. It's a nation of spies. I said what I said. Now imagine Netherlands. But I'm kind of trying to figure out what it's for Netherlands. So Aquarius would be the 8. 8 to the 9 to the 11th. Everybody gonna know who funds the Netherlands, and I got the feels. You gotta ask the guy with the Mars on my Pluto, because that's Mars 0 degree Scorpio. Okay, they get the guy that's on the money. I'm just playing with the cinnamon roll. Broadcasting. Balancing sugar levels. I know something's up. Where's Gemini for Netherlands? That will be the 12th. What I got something all up in the 12th for Netherlands. I got a Rahu, Chiron, and the IC, and Juno. Well, my Mercury Aries. So Rahu is lovely, because when you have somebody with Rahu in your 12th, they don't mean no harm. Okay, I mean, Elon's got Rahu in my 12th, but with Mars, and it's kind of like, I literally have to hide my bra from. What's aliens? I mean, that's just. What up, titters? Anyway. But Rahu is like, it means no harm. It's just kind of like, it's curious about what's in there. And that's about that. Okay, it's not. It doesn't come to maneuver you or play you or do anything necessarily malefic. But you're gonna feel uncomfy because they dredge up all the things that are in the back of your psyche. Cancer ascendants worldwide unite. Okay, and so. But I'm like, what's in there, Netherlands? What is, like, I'm just curious. Where the Mercury at? I don't know if it's I don't think it's in Pisces. So anyway, I know I have to figure this out. Oh, it's 12th house for the okay. Netherlands has to beware of invasion. Ruth would be like, but I've been planning this for 3 days. You ain't got nothing in Gemini. You got something. You ain't got nothing in Gemini. It's got a Mercury in Pisces. 12th house is invasion. Sedna, some sort of betrayal of from hospital something, WHO. It touches on the crown and it affects the people. Because the crown is always better per se associated. That's what. It's not about like a regulus or something like that. It's the crown because it's better per se. But I have to say that the trio, Titus, Rute, and King of Orange, Rute be like, no nickname? Do we really want the one? So this composite has a midheaven on a goal. Okay, Trump also has a midheaven on a goal. But it's true. That's that Uranus is going over that composite midheaven. The power of three. What can I say? It is what it is. And Sedna is in the 12th. Ouch. I don't know, I'm just curious. What about the kidnapped people? Not just the 1100. But I've been thinking that can also be like a scandal. Oh, Victor said it's associated with a sex scandal. And I think it is also about like the fact that, Nava's not going to vouch for the grapes. And it'll be a lot of them. Okay. So think about Ukraine. But also Russia and North Korea. That's Victor. That's the line of Victor. Family. No, I'm giving credit. I mean, I won't plagiarize an idea. If I can get what friction of accountability away from me for all of that whistleblowing, it's out there, but you gotta see the chart. Anyway, so there's something about WHO, like they probably planned some sort of a pandemic in Netherlands or something, but the people are going to rebel. Said the Netherlands. This Trump invasion, actually. What's with the business of Trump? I'm not up to speed with what he's up to right now. It will be business related, very likely. I mean, currency related, of course. Surveillance, maybe? I don't know, it's technology. Think about hospitals, jails, isolated places. The shrines underground, but I don't know. Yeah. By the way, that Edo guy has solar goal and he has a Uranus on his sun. And I was like, if only you wouldn't rape people also in energy, you would go through that and be wealthy and liberated from the MK Ultra. If he's programmed to do that, then all the more whatever personas he has that are not programmed to do that should be acting in my favor as best as they can, because I expose the dumb fuckery. So yeah, But that's an example of somebody with soul algol right now. Jag, I think, has either Sol or Jupiter algol. So, yeah, hold the right to exit violence for her, especially when it comes to cult and the MK and stuff like that. Anybody else, any royal family, okay, has algol. So the royal, like Beta per se, is associated with the crown, any crown. It's also the British crown. Afghanistan. Okay. So I said so I'll go for Israel. Ukraine, I don't remember. Belgium, I don't remember. It's Taurus related, but I don't remember the which. Oh, witchcraft. Well, you have to understand that the Masonic cults, to do an inversion of the snake goddess, which is actually protecting from rape and political persecution for having correct information, because they use rape for sexpionages. Okay. Kaboom, Pluto is trining algol. With Uranus algol. And trining Sedna. So the betrayal in the sexpionages backfires. And you see, with what's happening in the world, people like have seen horrid deaths in front of their eyes, of their own, so many times that they're like, oh, fuck it. So, and that Venus Pluto with Ceres and Abundancia or something like that, abundance something, abandonment, I don't remember. Then this is opening a cycle, and Venus takes around a year and a half. I don't remember how long she takes around the zodiac, but this is one cycle. Okay, we're closing a cycle, and that event opens a cycle. There is a Mars that's opposing that. So you want to check Victor's episode around Venus Pluto synodic cycle, okay, the opening of the synodic cycle. And so it's going to be an exposure of something to do with, I think the sex scandal has to do with sexpionages, like structurally how it works, because Pluto is in Saturn sign. It's not just one scandal. There's going to be a story, very likely, because it's a personal planet meeting an outer planet, but it's going to be a oh. But I don't think I'm going viral in any way. Remember the episode that I did on Urano Beta per se, and I talked about the fact that I'm the astrologer, the observer, versus me, the experiencer of this transit. I think we're having a take two. and yeah. I think they would have preferred that Peter would do it. They begin to regret assassinating, the MK guy. You know it, when you kill a person, like, that guy too dangerous, that guy too dangerous. You gotta do them. You gotta get them done. And then you get them done. And then you're like, why didn't we have Peter here? That would have been way easier, calmer. We know him. We could try to extort him about Deming. We could do something. That chart is going Nick Drake, but on the whistleblowing of the everything of it with the Galilee together. And nothing that we can do now. It's better to keep her alive because that sweetens the verdict. But you never know what she could do. So it's not even in our hands. I said what I said.